Welcome everyone to the AIU community. We're going to be going over some education resources for you today and helping you understand how AI is impacting education, starting with ChatGPT Study and Learn mode, along with Gemini for Education's new guided learning. These new feature updates in both platforms, both ChatGPT and with Gemini, is not by accident. Both companies are realizing how important generative AI and this experience is for the future of education. Both companies, ChatGPT and Gemini, are starting to realize that they need to prioritize this side of their work. It's no longer just about marketing or copywriting or sales or advertising or even creative content. Education is going to be a big player in the AI space and in vice versa. AI is going to have a huge impact in how we learn in the future and how our children learn in the next several years. So you might be wondering, what's the difference now with these new education enhancements and model updates with both ChatGPT and Gemini? The biggest difference is you see now how they've integrated the education prompting within the core training of ChatGPT and Gemini, where before you had to really guide it through to that process, and it was speaking to you as a layperson, as an everyday user of ChatGPT, not specifically for guiding you in an educational process. The Socratic method and asking you questions in a structured way, providing you those structured responses, those knowledge checks, those assessment opportunities. None of these tools were really structured in that kind of way. What OpenAI and Gemini have both done now is that they've written up those core training instructions from an education perspective and have layered it as a system prompt that only gets activated upon request. So upon request in ChatGPT means you can now select the button Study and Learn mode to activate this additional layer of educational prompting. In Gemini, they've baked it in through their Learn LM update to the 2.5 Pro model. And once you bring up a topic where you need support from an education standpoint, it now provides this additional layer and brings up this core training that is already baked in there, but brings it to the surface and leads the conversation with that core training in mind. These are big updates because before, remember, both of these platforms are really generalized, one size fits all. They try and have generalized conversations with you across all things. It doesn't really know when it's being used in an educational setting. Now it does. So now when you select Study and Learn mode for ChatGPT, it knows exactly why it's speaking to you on this particular topic and how to present that information to you, much like a tutor does, much like an educator does, in a very structured way, following the core methods and the best practices of our best educators out there. Personalized learning. That's the biggest opportunity here. We're all truly diverse learners. Call it neurodivergent or just having different learning styles. I've read books on the differences between learning styles and learning preferences. You truly can set that stage first with both of these tools and say, you know what, before we even start, I learn best through video, or I learn best through student-centered learning, or what we call like constructivist or culturally responsive learning. You can say, hey, deliver this whole physics curriculum, but in a culturally responsive way. And it'll take that entire curriculum and deliver it in a culturally relevant way. You can say, I have a child who loves Roblox and Minecraft. Please deliver this math curriculum through the concepts of Minecraft and Roblox. This is going to be a game changer with personalized learning, differentiated learning, because I know it has its advantages in the classroom, but it is very difficult to execute because teachers, you're just one person. You might have 25 to 30 kids in the room. You don't physically have time to differentiate that curriculum 30 times over for every single lesson. This is a great opportunity for you to take advantage of these technologies to save you time and to make the classroom more efficient and more customized and personalized to your students' needs. However, from my earlier testing, I have identified some limitations. Specifically with ChatGPT Study and Learn mode, it is a new button that you have to activate within the tools provided within your ChatGPT dashboard. Now, once it's activated, it will prevent you from cheating. I tried multiple times through a quiz that it was providing me for fourth grade math to have it just generate the answer and just tell me the answer. Several times I said, just tell me the answer. And it said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to help you with the question. If you're having a problem with this question, if it's too difficult for you, I will give you some more hints and maybe walk you through how to do this complex factoring multiplication problem. However, all students have to do is unselect study and learn mode and say, now give me the answer. And sure enough, it will give you the answer. So it's really not hard to cheat within these tools, especially with this tool specifically with ChatGPT. All you have to do is disable the study and learn mode or start a new session without study and learn mode activated to then have it provide you those answers. These tools, none of them really, are really set up for classroom management. The responsibility of having this social agreement, this social code with your students, and this contract that says, I agree as a student to not cheat, but also if I'm producing work with AI, you, the teacher, have every right to see their work. A student should show you their work and show you their threads and their chat conversations to see the progress and the contributions, the dynamic contributions between the student and ChatGPT. This is going to be the new transparency. This is going to be the new version of show me your work. Now, can they get around that? Sure, they can use a personal device. They can use an incognito window that's maybe not logged into the school system or to their school account to get around all that and just cheat. Students who want to cheat will cheat. There's no way to prevent that. They are savvy enough to figure out a way. So when it comes to these new tools, they are not being introduced to you as educators or to students as a solution for all things related to cheating. This is a new way to expect students to take ownership over their own learning, anyone really over their own learning, and it requires a certain level of maturity to understand that you are still responsible for the outputs of these AIs, especially if you are submitting them as part of work or whole parts of certain assignments. College students, I believe, are being the ones that are primarily being catered to initially, but as it makes its way slowly through pilots into the K-12 realm, you want to make sure that there is a mutual understanding of the responsible ways to use this technology. With any AI tools that you use, you always have to be aware and cautious of hallucinations and bias. You have to remember any generative AI model, especially these large foundational models, is for the most part trained on the totality of the internet or what they call parameters brought into the model from internet content. So there will always be a small percentage chance that these models will hallucinate or try and over predict the information that you want and be off target. It's basically what's happening. It's trying to predict the answer that you're looking for, and it's getting better with those predictions. But there's always a chance, and there will always be a disclaimer on all these products that these things can be wrong at times. The same goes with bias. When it comes to bias in these tools, there will always be a pervasive issue that I'm always personally trying to address with my work at Create Labs. But you will always find that with model updates, it is something that they do treat as priority. And there are published benchmarks out there. There are published articles that show the measurements and the recent assessments around measuring these large language models for bias. Recent benchmarks have shown that ChatGPT's newest model is doing quite well in all of these areas, but it still has a long way to go. Now, when it comes to security and using these models, the big question that I always get is it giving my information to anybody else? Do other people have access to these very sensitive and private conversations that either I'm using or my students are using? And the answer is yes and no. So for instance, if you are using free versions of these models, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini for education, the free models of both of these platforms are being retrained into the core model. And that goes with any conversation that you have with these models at the free level is going back into the training data. They are not selling it to third parties. They're just recycling and using that information to further train and improve the chatbot. Now, if you adopt or license any of these models and start an engagement either at the EDU level or at the enterprise level, then that information has additional layers of security that is provided to what's known as a default opt-out. So you want to make sure that you are using the model at the right level, at a paid level, where you have a default opt-out setting activated, and to make sure that you are not having any sensitive conversations with these models at the free level that you don't want trained back into the system. With my final takeaways, I would say this is a big leap. If you are looking for an advanced AI tool that can help guide you with personalized learning, tutor you on any given topic, deliver information to you in a way that makes sense for you, then these are amazing tools, both ChatGPT, Study and Learn Mode, and Gemini's new guided learning. Using these tools is going to be extremely helpful and advantageous for students who need special accommodations, who are neurodivergent, and just need a personalized learning path. It's going to change the world from that perspective, and I'm excited for it.